I don't know about any of you, but I definitely pushed myself to the point where I knew I needed to eat, but I was definitely not hungry. And if you've ever felt like that, we'd really gone pretty hard that day to get those kilometres in, burned an insane amount of calories. We were doing at least 3,000 calories a day. And from what we were learning from Kate as well in the lead up to this around nutrition, 3,000 calories a day plus what our actual basal metabolic rate is as well. 5,000-6,000 calories is really what we should be taking on in order to replace what we've already burned. So burning a lot of calories. Moving over to like carbohydrates, is that enough? Is it enough? Like how much do we have to, how do we calculate the carbohydrates that we need?
If we wanted to look at, like use that number example again, we were doing double body weight to get the grams per kilo. If you're using something like carbs, we generally go 6 times.
6 times body weight.
6 times the body weight to get a rough idea of what you actually need. So it's a significant amount. People don't realize that you need to prioritize carbs so much more in endurance events or ventures, much more than you need your protein. You still need to hit it, but if you want the energy to be able to continue, then you need to focus on the carbs. So having things like a slice of bread, if you're looking at potentially taking in 500 grams of carbs in a day, a slice of bread is 15 grams.
Oh wow.
So when you're trying to get those big
is that a whole loaf of bread? How much bread do we need to eat?
Which is why you would choose the much more dense sources of carbohydrates. Yep. So this is when you can look at things like these where they are specifically dried to be a high carb, fueling meal.
Yep.
These, for example, have got 86 grams of carbs.
Right.
You still wouldn't want to eat like 6 of these in a day to hit your carbs.
That's a lot.
Because it's a lot. Things like your rice are very dense sources of carbs, but this is where more of your fun foods will come into play.
Yeah, look, we wanted to treat ourselves a little bit while we're out there because like it is actually quite miserable.
Yeah. When you're doing that, you need something to pick you up, not just physically, but mentally. And this is the perfect time where it's not always about picking the most nutritious choice in the sense of, a healthy option. You want carbs and you want them no matter how they come. These things, 40 grams of carbs in a cookie. So
one cookie.
In 2 cookies, you can get all the carbs of a full meal, but what's easier to eat to be able to top up what you need? So things like your cookies, things like granola is one of the best, most carb-dense things that you can have. It's also really high in calories, so it's awesome for fueling these sorts of ventures, but those are the foods you want to actually reach more for to top you up in between things like your main meals.
Yeah, got ya. What about things like fruit?
The fruit will give you a number of benefits. It'll give you, the vitamins and mineral component in there. It'll give you the hydration factor as well, just with the fluid that's in the fruit. It'll be a refreshing element if you're in a hot environment. So say the Whitsundays, it'll be more of like a liveliness sort of perk you up aspect to it. But it's not the most energy dense form of carbohydrates that you can get. So you wouldn't want to solely rely on it unless you were also using dried fruits to sort of top up what you need.
Okay.
So you think of something like a dried apricot and how big it is versus eating a whole apricot. It's the same amount of carbs in both. It's just one will be significantly smaller and easier to get a lot in.
That makes a lot more sense, and obviously the same idea around like the beef jerky over to the dried fruit. It's like drying it down,
condense it as much as you can.
Got you. Trail mix and things like nuts and stuff like that. How good is that?
Perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect. It is the best kind of stuff. So especially ones like this where you've got a mixture of fruit and nuts in there.
Yep.
You'll be getting a lot of carbs out of it. You'll be getting a lot of calories is the most important thing. So you can get in a quarter of a cup, teeny tiny portion, about 200 calories.
Holy.
Yeah.
And is that kind of like really similar to things like peanut butter and things like that as well?
Yeah, things like that. So if you can handle a spoonful of it, about a tablespoon will be almost 200 calories if you like it a little bit heat. Then if you're going for that's 200 calories done.
Yeah.
So in comparison, one of these meals is about 600 calories.
Gotcha.
So it's looking for those, constantly looking for ways to top up with energy dense sources so that your stomach's not just full to the brim so that you can't move. There's nothing worse than trying to, continue at an intensity of exercise and feeling like you're full up to here. Then it's just going to come back up.
It's like you feel queasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no good.
Not a great time. Not good for your performance. There's definitely smarter ways to get those extra nutrients in.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're just about to leave the Cairn, which is the top end of Whitsunday Island, to head out to Crayfish Bay, which is around one of the sides of the Hook Island. It's a little bit less than yesterday's paddles. Yesterday was about just over 20 Ks. Today's going to be about 9. We're going to do it on an incoming tide. It's going to be a little bit hard going out through the inlet there with the eddy currents and stuff that are actually starting to pile up. But by the time we get out into the open ocean, we should be pretty good. Mentally gearing myself up for today though. Yesterday, Reese and I, by the end of it, it was pretty brutal. Our core, our backs, our shoulders, all feeling it. So yeah, mentally trying to prepare ourselves for day 2, and considering we've got, after today, we've got another 2 days left. So a lot of paddling still to do, but we'll get there.
Yeah. On the right?
Yeah. Day 2, and we're preparing to paddle out now from the Cairn all the way up to Crayfish Bay, which is partway up Hook Island. This was a little bit of a shorter paddle, around 10 Ks, or just under 10 Ks I should say, but it was probably one of the more challenging ones that we were going to be experiencing.
Heading out of the channel between the 2 islands, we could see the waves breaking, and it was getting really choppy, and the waves were quite big. Bigger than anything we had been in before.
I was like, I'm going to go over. Just stay upright. I don't want to go over in this boat. I don't want to capsize in this boat, because we hadn't prepared enough to ride ourselves in the kayak. A lot of experts and a lot of people that are really good at this type of thing. Riding yourself in a kayak, if you've capsized, is something that you, as an evasive maneuver or something to get yourself back up and going again, is something that a lot of them will do. We, again, due to time constraints, didn't really have the opportunity to learn more about that sort of thing. So yeah, we were kind of like going into this a little bit underprepared, unfortunately.
We knew we had to get through it, so we just pushed through and tried to meet the waves head on, so we could cut through and just get past them. It looked as if it was just breaking just after the channel, just because of the currents meeting each other. So we thought if we could just get past that, it wouldn't be so bad after that.
Whoa. Okay, that music was too intense. Like, we were a bit nervous when we were doing it, but the waves weren't that big. They felt really big when we were there. So let's change the music, because we're not trying to scare you at all. We were a bit nervous, that's all.
And it definitely calmed down once we got past those big waves, but the conditions were a lot different than the day before, and we were in for a harder challenge today.
Woo! That's fucking terrifying.
Good job, you got through it.
Oh my god.
That was pretty gnarly.
This was still a little bit more, a bit of a secluded area, because we were still behind the headland of Whitsunday Island. But as we ventured out past that break and past that little calmer area, we noticed that, yes, the waves the swell really started to pick up, and the wind was picking up as well. It just became really choppy, like a washing machine. And it just made us like we were just tipping around everywhere. And because the boats really weren't really balanced well, it was very challenging to paddle in that type of water.
We were feeling quite tippy, but if we could keep our stroke up, we could cut through them fairly well. And we got about halfway and then disaster hit. Beau flipped over in his kayak.
The challenge became real. I'd hit a series of larger waves and I capsized straight over, and I was under the water, and I just under the water trying to pull the skirt so I could escape the kayak. But the skirt itself the spray skirt was getting hooked up. So I was under the water for quite an amount of time, and I finally got the skirt off, pulled my legs out and got up above, but I had swallowed on a lot of water. Coughing and spluttering, and now I'm in panic mode. With the waves the way they were, and it was just, they may not have been huge waves like this, being in a massive open ocean with big waves, but these waves were enough to really put the fear in me, and trying to figure out what to do next. I turn around and Reese is coming. He's coming up from behind me to try and help right the kayak so I wasn't bobbing around in the ocean by myself. And then Dad up behind Reese as well in the support boat to really anchor that boat back and figure out a way that I could get back into the kayak.
I need to grab onto something before you do that.
We were able to get Beau back into the boat, and we tried to flip the kayak over and bilge out the water that was in it. But the waves, the swell was so rocky, and even with the boat, we couldn't hold the kayak steady enough to get him back in it.
We discovered that we couldn't get the water out with the waves crashing back over into the kayak, and it was going to be way more challenging for me to be able to get back into the kayak and keep paddling. So halfway there to Crayfish Bay, our next point, I ended up just calling it that day and being like, look, I probably can't do the rest of the distance. I'm going to have to stay in the boat and support Reese on the final 5K leg.
I've rolled over. The sea out here is pretty wild. A lot more hectic than what I was considering. Had to bail. Reese is keeping on going. We've got to get to that point, the far end. Oh, I just don't know how I was going to go. Getting back into the boat, bilging it out. Reese will get us there though. Good on you, Reese.
Really had to dig deep for that last half of this paddle because my arms and my back were fatiguing so much at this point. There was a lot of swearing and grunting and then saying, no, I can do this, I can make it.
It's getting really tough. Reese is really struggling. The waves are getting really much taller. Feeling for him. He's pushing though. I'm proud of him.
I really had to pull myself back in line and just tell those thoughts to fuck off because I was going to make it. I was going to get there. I was determined to do it. Just had to keep paddling. Just keep paddling. Just keep paddling. I could see 2 points and I could hear Beau saying, it's just the next point, it's just the next point. And finally reached the second point. I was like, oh, please God, let it be around this corner.
Watching Reese paddle the remaining distance with the just determination in his face was pretty remarkable. I could tell, I knew exactly what he was dealing with. We were in a world of pain at this time as well. So to see him push ahead and get through to around the headland was a huge challenge, and to see him get through that was great.
Holy shit, that's hard. Woo! Fucking hell. Oh, nearly there. Nearly there. Come on.
And as soon as we got around into that bay, I just motored towards the beach. I found like a third wind and just pushed through and got there as fast as I could.
You made it, Reese.
Oh, yeah.
How was that?
This is so hard. So hard.
Mate, I thought you were a goner for a couple of times.
Yeah.
It was getting pretty, the waves are getting pretty big.
Oh yeah, it's so rough.
But you pushed through it.
Yeah. Just lots of like swearing and then going, no, you can do it.
I was listening to him from the boat. I thought, I'll give him a moment. He's dealing with it. But yeah, that was actually what was terrifying for me. But Reese was soldiering on, and he actually got round a point in that hectic sea.
And I was feeling pretty tired and fatigued. I needed some food. And as soon as I got that back in me, I started to lighten up a little bit again. And we set up camp, and Crayfish Bay is probably one of the most magical places I've been to. It felt like Neverland, just the way the sun was shining and the hills, the little mountains were on either side, and this beautiful reef beach. It was just incredible to, after doing that hard challenge, everything just looks shiny and new.